Good morning. Thank you so much for coming to the Stablecoin Summit, an annual summit dedicated to our industry, the stablecoin industry. And I'd like to start by overviewing what we as an industry have accomplished so far. Fundamentally, as money operators, we're all managing two ledgers, the liability ledger and the reserves ledger. On the liability side, the stablecoin technology, which is enabled by the blockchain technology, has allowed us to provide decentralized ledgers to the liability side, right? So all of the TradFi, financial institutions, payment companies, banks, central banks, their liabilities ledger are all centralized. Our liabilities ledger are decentralized. So today, even when we talk about quote-unquote centralized stablecoin issuers, Circle, Tether, Paxos, please remember half of our ledger is decentralized, right? The liabilities ledger is decentralized, although we call these industry players centralized stablecoins. The reserves ledger, we spend so much time here with the reserves ledger. One difference is endogenous versus exogenous. When a lot of people talk about the collapse of Terra UST, they say that it's because it's an algorithmic stablecoin. I don't find that to be the most precise interpretation. To me, Terra UST collapsed because it was entirely using endogenous reserves, right? It was using just the Luna token, which is 100% endogenous to the Terra Luna ecosystem. On the other side of the spectrum, we have Circle and Tether and Paxos. Their reserves are US dollar instruments, bank deposits, and short-term treasuries. These reserve assets are not only exogenous to their companies, Circle and Tether and Paxos, but also exogenous to the entire crypto economy. These are TradFi assets. In the middle, we have protocols like MakerDAO, right? Part of their assets, well, they don't have, I don't think they have any endogenous assets to MakerDAO, but they have crypto assets such as ETH as reserve. And these are exogenous to MakerDAO, but still endogenous to the crypto economy. And then now they're introducing real-world assets, which is exogenous to the crypto markets. And then we have decentralized versus centralized. Some assets require centralized operations. For example, US dollar instruments like treasuries, gold, to a certain extent, Bitcoin as well, right? And then we have assets that can be completely decentralized and custodied on-chain. And that speaks to the original MakerDAO's vision or today's Liquidity. They're using ETH as collateral, as reserves, and ETH is completely decentralized and custodied on-chain. Seizure-resistant versus seizure-prone. Not all centralized assets, such as US treasuries, are seizure-prone, right? Yes, if one day the US regulators decide that they want to freeze some stablecoin issuers' T-bills, then that's a risk, right? They could actually seize it. And recently, the US did something that they haven't done in, I don't know, past at least 50 years, and that is they seized Russian-owned treasury bills. So it has happened recently. So that's seizurable, but not all centralized reserve types are seizable. For example, gold is a really good reserve type, in my opinion. And gold, a stablecoin issuer, if reserving with gold, they can completely self-custody in vaults, professional vaults in mountains and tunnels. Okay? And then we have static reserves versus treasury operations, right? So Tether, Circle, Paxos, their reserves are pretty static. They're just sitting there in treasuries, treasury bills, and commercial bank deposits. And then you have FRAX, which is on the other extreme. They do a lot of reserve operations, what they call automated market operations, to generate yield for the protocol. And then we have good accounting transparency, which in my opinion is mostly provided by quote-unquote centralized stablecoin issuers, such as Circle and Tether. With the DeFi stablecoins, I want to say data is not equivalent to information, and information is not equivalent to transparency. Today, with DeFi stablecoins, I really feel that we need a lot more transparency. Yes, all the data is available, but if we look back at the bankruptcy of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature and Silvergate, these are publicly listed banks. Their earnings reports and their audit reports have always been available, but we did not force that data to tell the right story. We did not recognize that they were marking a lot of their long-term treasury bills to maturity, and nobody actually took time to market all of their long-term treasuries. Otherwise, we wouldn't know that these banks had a lot of risk. Data's available, but transparency was not available, right? So I'm involved. I'm one of the co-founders to the Unitas protocol. It is a DeFi stablecoin protocol, and we just feel that we need to put in a lot more effort. Yes, all the data is on-chain, but how do we let the data tell the right story by applying the right accounting principles? And how do we maybe perhaps allocate funding so that we can have professional external auditors to audit that data and to let that data tell the right story and highlight the risks? Finally, some reserve assets natively appreciate. For example, if you are a believer in our industry, then ETH and Bitcoin natively appreciates, right? Well, actually, fiat natively depreciates, right? So Bitcoin natively appreciates. Gold as well. And then you have some reserve assets that are generating, that do not natively appreciate, but that are generating yield based on artificial manipulation. I'm talking about, for example, all of the treasury bills, right? That yield is completely artificial and manipulated by governments. All right, how do we make decisions when we operate money? How do we do governance? The three ways right now: traditional legal frameworks, commercial corporations such as Tether and Circle and Paxos, and then we have DAOs such as MakerDAO, and to a certain extent FRAX. And then we have kind of code is law type of algorithmic and immutable governance, mostly done by smart contracts. And that we have, on that side, we have, for example, liquidity. How do we do all these operations? How do we mint and burn and do treasury operations? Okay. How does the day-to-day operations work? Right now, we have two types. One is centralized. So again, Tether and Circle, Paxos, they run their operations in a more black box way, and they have to rely on auditors to audit their operations and make transparent their operations. On the other hand, most of the DeFi stablecoins run their operations using smart contracts, so there's a lot more transparency and visibility. So MakerDAO, for example, FRAX, Unitas protocol, right? All these are open source smart contracts, and so inherently is providing better visibility. Okay, so evidently, as an industry, we have done a lot of work to enhance our stores of value so that today we have better transparency, programmability, and self-sovereignty. With the source of source of value of the monies that we operate. Now that we have a much better store of value, what's next? Well, as stablecoin issuers, we have to defend our peg, right? And a lot of people, they often, when they talk about peg stability because it's a stablecoin, they talk about the reserves. But to me, reserves are stablecoin issuers' last line of defense. It's the last line of defense. It is not enough. You have, you're 130%, 150%, 200% reserve. Does not defend your peg for you because it depends on all of the pipelining and all of the liquidity that's out there. So, to me, the best defense of a stablecoin's peg is usage and volatility. Not only that you're fully reserved, but usage and volatility. So let's talk about that. What is that? Well, the best way to create usage and volatility is to develop a stablecoin or a money into a unique medium of exchange. Now I want to explain this using two stories. One is Japan. I'm from Taiwan, and Taiwanese people, we love Japanese products, Japanese services, culture, travel, right? So whenever the Japanese yen depreciates, we're helping their central bank. Whenever Japanese yen depreciates, you see a lot of Taiwanese just go buy up Japanese yen, right? We are defending the peg for Japan. Why? It's not necessarily that we love the Japanese yen that's depreciating, but we love Japanese products and services and culture and travel. And we have only one way to acquire those, and that is through one unique medium of exchange, and that's the Japanese yen. So, whenever the Japanese yen depreciates, we go buy up the Japanese yen, right? And that is one of the best defense against a money, that when you start to depreciate, because you have usage, people go and buy up your money, and they use it, and they create that velocity. Right? Because when you have velocity, people don't go to your central bank and try to redeem. And Tether in emerging markets have a similar role. Emerging markets have much weaker currencies. And so in order for them to access the global financial system, there is only one unique medium of exchange that they must go through. And that is the US dollar. And today, the easiest way for emerging market, small, medium businesses, individuals, entrepreneurs to access that unique medium of exchange, which is the US dollar, is through Tether USDT. And as a cross-border payment company, XREX, we witnessed Tether's peg defense firsthand during the Terra UST collapse. When Terra Luna collapsed, it created a short period where Tether depreciated a little bit, okay? And while the whole crypto community was in panic, we saw massive buying volume of Tether from our user base. And these are cross-border merchants in emerging markets, and they were buying in multi-million-dollar tickets. And we told them, hey, you want to consider, because something big is happening in the crypto world. Terra Luna just collapsed. They're like, what's Terra Luna? Never heard of it. We trust Tether. Because today I buy Tether, tomorrow I want to sell Tether. Everybody wants to buy from me, right? So that is because Tether has become the one single unique medium of exchange for emerging markets to access the global financial system. So when they depeg, there is an organic defense and that is people buying up the Tether that they need because of their unique position as medium of exchange. So medium of exchange represents what? Access right, right? If I live in emerging markets, India, Africa, to access the global economy, I have to go through the US dollar. To access Japanese products, I have to go through Japanese yen. and access rights establish an economic regime. And with an economic regime, your money, your stablecoin, because it is the unique medium of exchange, because people are using you to transact, they're creating a lot of velocity, and therefore you are supporting a GDP. That is the medium of exchange that stablecoin issuers should be developing, in my opinion, because that's going to generate usage and velocity, and that is going to act as the first line of defense for a stablecoin. So what's next, right? If we have created that usage and velocity, and now the peg is stabilizing, and we have real-world use, what's next? What's the opportunity for the next decade for money operators and stablecoin operators? I see the opportunity to build neutrality and freedom. Why? Let's talk about unit of account. Let's talk about unit of account. I want to talk about medium of exchange first. We said medium of exchange is access right, establishes economic regimes, and supports GDPs, right? So, unit of account, what's unit of account? Unit of account creates prolonged economic regimes using habits. Let me explain. Every time when I have to do some public speaking, I feel I am at a disadvantage. Why? Because English is not my mother tongue. I grew up speaking Mandarin, right? And in Taiwan, with our educational system, we're always struggling. How do we provide good English education, dual language for Taiwan? It's always a struggle. And to me, I feel every time in business, in public speaking, I am at a disadvantage. English people don't have this disadvantage because they're raised speaking English, right? So although the Great Britain after World War II is no more a global empire, English remains the world's dominant language, especially in business. And English-based GDP makes the biggest percentage of world GDP. That is how you prolong an economic regime. So an English-based economic regime established by the Great Britain prior to World War II still exists today and is still providing Britain with a lot of advantages. Okay? Because why? Because the switching cost is very high. Because once you form that habit, it's really hard for your brain to switch, right? So it's all about switching cost. And today, if I ask you, hey, how much is Bitcoin trading today? 26K, 25K, 27K, around there. That's in US dollars, right? But if I ask you today, hey, how much is Bitcoin trading today in Indian rupees? In Singaporean SGD? In Taiwanese dollar? In Turkish lira? It's really hard. Once your brain is used to one system, the switching cost is too high. And that is the power of habit, right? But sometimes this type of moat gives a regime too much switching power, too much monopoly. So, in our industry, what is MakerDAO's DAI? Well, MakerDAO's DAI, is it US dollar? Or is it not US dollar? Well, it's kind of US dollar, but it's definitely not controlled by the US government. I thought the US dollar is controlled by the US government. Well, the stablecoin technology allows us to neutralize those units of account and gives us freedom to create new money that is using the neutralized unit of account. So MakerDAO's DAI, for example, has turned the US dollar from a currency proprietary to the US and controlled by the US to a pure unit of account, just like 60 seconds of time, 100 meters of distance, right? We can neutralize those units of account and innovate new money and lower the switching cost, because when I trade Bitcoin with DAI, I don't need to switch my brain. I am still thinking in US dollar terms, but I'm not using the United States dollar operated by the US government. I'm using a new money that is operated by a DeFi protocol, but I don't need to switch my brain. That is, to me, the next big opportunity. All right, so we've really, as an industry, built a lot. This is what we have built so far, and it's very impressive. What's next? Let's talk about the stablecoin movement. I feel that as money operators, we can move in 3 big directions. 1, enhance the transparency, programmability, and self-sovereignty of store of value. 2, grow usage, velocity, and GDP by positioning our money as unique mediums of exchange. Finally, foster freedom and competition by neutralizing units of account. By neutralizing existing units of account, such as the US dollar, we've tremendously lowered the cost of switching from one money system to another. Thanks to the stablecoin technology, today, in this room, we have many money operators and money issuers. Today, people have the freedom to create their own money and the freedom to pick and use their preferred money of choice. Today, we can let money compete and unleash money innovations. And with this, we bring to you Stablecoin Summit 2023. Thank you very much.